The greatest potential enemy of God's work in your life is not your sins. It's not your bad habits. The greatest enemy of God's work in your life is the good things that God has put into your life. Your marriage, your family, your job, the good gifts from God that you start to depend on in place of him, like Isaac had become for Abraham. Isaac was Abraham's son, his only son. The only thing he lived for anymore. The greatest threat to God's work in your life, Tim Keller says, are your onlys. Your onlys. If only I was married, everything would be great. If only my career achievements were better, then my life would have real significance. If only I had a boyfriend, if only I had kids, if only I could make another 50,000 next year. What is that only for you? If you want to know what your Isaac is, ask what you obsess about. Ask what you're most driven to obtain. What do you most worry about losing? What have you worked the hardest for in your life? For some of you, you've worked night and day. You've worked harder than anybody else around you to become a success, and there's nothing wrong with that, except that you did it because you thought success gave you value and significance, just like Abraham thought a son would give him those things. Your Isaac is anything which the thought of losing, when you think about losing that thing, it fills you with absolute despair. What is that for you? It's not a bad thing. It's always a good thing. For Abraham, it was his son, his only son. So God had to deal with that. God's tests decenter things that have displaced God in our hearts. So again, what would it be in your life? Maybe it's your comfortable life here in the triangle. It could be marriage, could be a girlfriend, could be your family, could be getting pregnant, could be maybe your only is getting into a particular school. You think, oh, if I could just get into that school, only that could happen, my life would have meaning and I would have value. Maybe it's getting to some level in your career, getting some amount of money in the bank. For me, I'll be honest, at times it's been the success of this church. I mean, this church by some measures is successful, right? And we recognize that as the blessing of God. We celebrate what God is doing. But you know, Veronica and I, we ask ourselves all the time, is this our Isaac? Is this our only? Is this our son, our only son, the son that we love? The son we could not imagine being without? Now, just to be clear, I don't think so. I'm not planning to offer you up on the altar, so relax, okay? But every year I've told you, as part of our January fast, our 21-day fast, Veronica and I lay our involvement in this church on the altar. And every year we say, God, do you want us here? Do you want us to lay this down? And thus far, every single year, he said no. He does not want us to leave, but see, I do that not because I have any desire to go anywhere. I just don't want this good blessing to become my Isaac. That's not good for you, and it's not good for us. So every year I want to put it on the altar, and I want to tell God, God, I love this church, but you are my only. You and you alone, you're my life and security and significance and hope. Y'all, those words are so easy to say, but they're so hard to live out. When God asks you to obey with your only, when he asks you to walk into some chapter that feels like death, are you going to trust him there?